At age 8, her poetry stunned the Hanlon scholars. At 12, she won first place in the horse race. At 17, she rejected the Grand Secretariat's eldest son's proposal, declaring she wanted one person for a whole lifetime. The entire capital said she was mad. Only I knew. She was a transmigrator from another world. On the day my elder sister got married, 10 miles of red dowry filled Shengjing. Dressed in a fiery red bridal gown, she looked back and gave me a playful wink.
Tinger, you must believe me. I will definitely find you an even better husband than Prince Xiao.
Who would have thought? My sister directly submitted my birth chart to the imperial family.
Tinger, I've looked through all the men in the capital, and only the crown prince is worthy of you. Being with him, you will definitely be happy.
I listened to my sister and became the crown princess. After marriage, the crown prince and I treated each other with mutual respect. Everyone in the capital knew about it. His Highness also promised me that I would be his only wife in this life until he ascended the throne as emperor and lived with me in perfect harmony for 3 years. I discovered inside the imperial studies secret chamber hundreds of portraits of another woman hidden away. It was the prime minister's daughter with red-rimmed eyes, my sister said. The prince had long kept a mistress outside as well. She said, as long as she died, she could return to her original world. That day, my sister leaped down from the city wall, watching the emperor welcome the prime minister's daughter into the palace as a noble consort. I thought, it is time for me to leave too. I sat in Guanju Palace, holding the concentric jade pendant Xiao Ruo'an once gave me. Engraved on it was, to win the heart of the one I love, never part till hair turns white. How ridiculous. I knew. Having only one consort in an emperor's harem is exceedingly difficult. In that case, why did Xiao Ruo'an make that vow to me back then? I took it to heart, yet he betrayed me. When he returned, I asked him directly, when did things start with Lu Yuan'er? Xiao Ruo'an was slightly startled for a moment and did not deny it.
Empress, Yuan'er has waited for us for 3 years. We must give her an explanation. Her entering the palace will not threaten your position as empress. She is gentle and well-mannered. If she bears children in the future, we can even register them under your name.
I gripped the jade pendant tightly, a chill spreading through my heart. Everyone in the capital said that the emperor treated the empress with utmost devotion, keeping the imperial harem empty, not pressuring me to bear an heir, and even offering to place any future children under my name. My parents told me not to be ungrateful. The court officials urged me not to be jealous, yet I grew up alongside my elder legitimate sister. I always knew she was a transmigrator from another world. In her era, men and women were equal, and monogamy was the only way. If that is the case, why, in our world, must women sacrifice themselves to fulfill men? The world demands women remain pure as jade, so why can men not do the same? I took a deep breath and looked steadily at Xiao Ruo'an. Your Majesty, this concubine does not consent to her entering the palace. Xiao Ruo'an was stunned for a moment, his expression darkening. The hall fell silent for a while, and he said coldly,
Empress, why can you not understand us? You and Yuan'er are both women. Could you truly bear to watch her go her entire life without her beloved?
My breath hitched slightly, seeing my expression remain unchanged. Xiao Ruo'an frowned in disappointment.
Empress, how is it that we never realized? You were so jealous.
I stared at him blankly. Jealous? Xiao Ruo'an, you dare say I'm jealous? I dropped all titles of respect for him, yet at this moment he didn't care at all. Xiao Ruo'an's eyes were filled with displeasure. He flicked his sleeves and turned to leave.
Empress, you had better reflect on this properly.
The vast Guanju palace grew desolate and cold, and my heart fractured piece by piece. If I had never fallen for Xiao Ruo'an, how many concubines he took would mean nothing to me. Yet the truth was just the opposite. Xiao Ruo'an and I met in our youth. During the Shangxi festival that year, the late emperor took the court and their families to Chang'an Temple to pray for 3 days. That night, I ran to the Guanyin Hall, praying and murmuring softly, your disciple Xie Ting wishes to ask Lady Guanyin, is there truly someone in this world willing to stay devoted to one person for life? Inside the vast Guanyin Hall, only my voice echoed. The wind blew in through the window, giving me an eerie chill. Trembling, I wanted to flee when I heard a young man's soft chuckle. That was how Xiao Ruo'an and I locked eyes. Xiao Ruo'an tapped my head, teasing that I was yearning for love at such a young age. Shameless and bold. Later, with the 3 letters and 6 rights and 10 miles of red dowry, he proposed, making solemn vows to me.
A Ting, in this life I will never fail you. One heart, loving only one person.
I smiled until tears fell, believing that the question I asked Guanyin had finally found its answer. Yet, I never knew that while Xiao Ruo'an was passionately betrothing himself to me, his heart had also fallen for Liu Yuaner. Can a man's words really not be trusted? When my elder sister came to visit me in the palace and heard me talk about this, her eyes were filled with bitterness.
It is all my fault for misjudging his character. I thought Xiao Ruo'an would always cherish you. I never expected him to hide his true colors so well.
As my elder sister spoke, tears streamed down her face.
I've also discovered recently that the prince has kept a mistress on the side for a long time, and they even have a child together. Men are truly fickle and heartless. Their vows before marriage sound so sweet, yet after the wedding, who knows where their hearts have wandered?
She gave a self-deprecating smile. I was stunned. After all, back then, Prince Xian remained entirely devoted to my elder sister, with a love so deep it moved everyone. So it turns out, even he could change. Could it be that, in this era, the mindset my sister and I share is truly so intolerable? When I was young, my elder sister told me so much about the era she came from. In that place, if a husband fell in love with another woman, a wife can apply to divorce her husband, or part ways amicably, and marriage between men and women is also a matter of free will. Back then, when we told this to Prince Xian, he didn't really believe it. Prince Xian would hold my elder sister's hand with deep affection.
Yaoer, my fidelity to you is my sweetest joy.
The tea had grown cold before my elder sister finally spoke.
Tinger, if one day I am gone, you must find your own freedom. Strife in the imperial harem is inevitable. I do not want you trapped in a struggle where multiple women fight over one man.
My heart tightened. What did my sister mean? What did she mean by that? Yet, when I asked her further, she refused to say more. Seeing the sky growing dark, I stubbornly insisted on seeing her out of the palace. Xiao Ruo'an had not restricted my freedom to leave the palace, so I was free to go at any time. When we arrived at Prince Xian's manor, I saw Xiao Su waiting, holding the hand of a 5-year-old child. The child's features bore a strong resemblance to him, his dark eyes filled with innocence. Seeing my elder sister step down from the carriage, a trace of guilt flashed in Xiao Su's eyes, and he gestured for the child to step forward.
Ximing, this is your mother.
Through the carriage curtain, I saw my elder sister's face turn cold. Before the child could even take 2 steps, he burst into loud tears.
Father, she isn't my mother. I don't want to accept her as my mother.
My legitimate elder sister couldn't help but sneer.
Your Highness must be joking. Where would I have gotten a child?
Xiao Su furrowed his brows and scolded the child in a low voice.
Ximing, stop throwing tantrums. Listen to your father.
Xiao Ximing continued to sob. Disappointment filled my elder sister's eyes, yet a smile remained on her face.
Your Highness, what do you mean by bringing your mistress's son to my door?
Xiao Su spoke with a hint of guilt in his voice.
Yaoer, Ximing is of Xiao blood. He must acknowledge his ancestry. I have discussed it with Tanner to register Ximing under your name. He will be your own legitimate son from now on, and we can remain just as we were before.
Shattering. With a crisp slap, my elder sister struck Xiao Su across the face. Her eyes were rimmed with red.
Xiao Su, how dare you humiliate me like this? Unless we divorce. Otherwise, this bastard son of a mistress shall never enter the prince's manor.
Xiao Su's eyes were ablaze with fury. He never expected that my gentle elder sister would ever strike him. Before he could speak, outside the manor gates, a woman with disheveled hair came stumbling in. It was none other than Xiao Su's mistress, Zhang Tanner. She knelt before my elder sister, kowtowing and weeping.
Princess, you are of noble status. It does not matter if you refuse to let this concubine enter the manor, but Ximing is the prince's own bloodline. I beg of you, let him acknowledge his ancestry. If you wish to take this concubine's life, I will gladly offer it to you with both hands.
Xiao Su's heart ached terribly for her, and he could not help but speak.
Tanner.
Yet, Jiang Tanner kept weeping, kowtowing relentlessly to my elder sister until fresh blood seeped from her forehead, looking utterly pitiable. More and more onlookers gathered around. The actions of these two were undoubtedly roasting my sister over the fire, making everyone believe she was consumed by jealousy. I could hold back no longer. What a splendid show of forcing her hand. Xiao Su's face froze, and he bowed in salutation to me.
Her Majesty, the Empress.
I paid him no heed, striding straight toward the pale-faced Zhang Tanner and struck her across the face with a hard slap. Did you think playing the victim would force my sister to accept your son and take you into the manor as well? I looked at Xiao Su coldly. Prince Xian, when you sought to marry my sister back then, do you still remember the promises you made? Xiao Su's expression shifted drastically, his hands clenching tightly within his sleeves. We of the Marquis Manor are no bodhisattvas of boundless mercy. Do not try to force just anyone under my sister's name and soil her eyes. My elder sister wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes, looking steadily at Xiao Su.
Your Highness, I shall await your letter of divorce. Or perhaps I should write it and deliver it to you myself.
Xiao Su froze for a moment. Then, Zhang Tanner's timid voice piped up.
Your Highness?
Her face was deathly pale, and she swayed unsteadily, as if she would collapse the very next second. Xiao Su hurriedly caught her in his arms, frowning.
Her Majesty, the Empress, this is my domestic affair.
His gaze fell upon my elder sister, filled with pleading.
Tanner has been by my side for years. Allowing her into the manor will not threaten your position as princess consort. As long as you remain in this manor, you will be the only princess consort. We have been husband and wife for 5 years. You ought to understand me.
My sister scoffed at this, her spine held straight and proud.
You know my temperament. I, Xie Yao, cannot tolerate the slightest betrayal.
Xiao Su's eyes turned cold, his tone laced with displeasure.
It seems I have indulged you far too much over the years, making you forget that a wife must obey her husband.
Regardless of my sister's consent, he carried Zhang Tanner and prepared to enter the manor. She held no formal title or status. Doing this was undeniably a deliberate slight against my sister. Zhang Tanner rested her face against Xiao Su's chest, looking back at my sister with provocative eyes, as if mocking how powerless she was. My sister stumbled slightly, and I supported her just in time. The murmurs of the crowd buzzed in our ears, calling my sister jealous and saying the prince had no heir for years, so it was only right for him to take a concubine. I ordered the guards to disperse the onlookers. Sister, I looked at her with deep concern. She grasped my wrist tight and said with tears in her eyes,
Tinger, I want to go home. Tinger. Such unfaithful and heartless men, there is no need to stay by their side.
After bidding farewell to my elder sister, my mind was wandering all the way back to the palace. She said, as long as she died, she could return to her original world. Exhausted upon returning to Guanju Palace, I ordered the servants to wait outside the hall, yet half asleep and half awake. I heard Xiao Ruo'an sigh beside the couch.
I heard you went to the gates of Prince Xian's manor to back up the princess. Why interfere in Prince Xian's family affairs?
His fingertips caressed my cheek.
Prince Xian's illegitimate son is quite grown now. For the sake of royal dignity, he must be taken into the household.
Pausing for a moment, Xiao Ruo'an spoke of himself again.
Empress, we intended to remain faithful and spend our lives solely with you. Yet the moment we saw you on her, our heart was genuinely moved.
A wave of bitterness welled up inside me. All these years, among the many noblemen in the capital, only Xiao Ruo'an and Xiao Su had practiced devotion to one wife for life, even inspiring many others to follow suit. Now, both of them wished to take second women. I could not help but open my eyes, meeting Xiao Ruo'an's pleading and apologetic gaze.
Empress,
I interrupted him. Your Majesty, what if this concubine were to say she has found someone she wishes to spend her life with and begs you to bring him into the palaces so the three of us may live together? Xiao Ruo'an's expression changed drastically. He barked angrily.
absurd. As a woman, how could you serve 2 husbands? Have you forgotten the 3 obediences and 4 virtues?
Seeing the mockery in my eyes, he lowered his voice.
Empress, you should understand that men and women are different after all.
I scoffed, taking out the jade pendant and placing it before him. Your Majesty, ever since you sought my hand in marriage, you knew no woman of the Xie family could share a husband with another. What is more, a promise made by the Son of Heaven, was it all a lie? Xiao Ruo'an stood up in a fury, his brow tightly furrowed.
Empress, have we failed to teach you that a wife's honor comes from her husband, and that a husband is the master of his wife?
With that said, he turned and strode away, leaving only one remark.
Empress, you had better reflect on this. Tomorrow we shall bring you honor into the palace to meet you.
I gave a couple of cold sneers. How ridiculous. Even the words these two brothers used to intimidate people were identical. When the next day came, Liu Yuan heir arrived, yet I refused to see her. Leaning in Xiao Ruo'an's arms, she couldn't help dabbing her tears with a silk handkerchief.
Your Majesty, I know not how I have offended the Empress. It is all my fault.
Xiao Ruo'an looked at her with pure heartache.
Yuan, how is this your doing? She is simply too petty and we have indulged her far too much, which made her so reckless. We will bring you into the palace. Whether she agrees or not, she must accept it.
Listening to these words inside the hall, a dense, piercing ache seized my heart. My elder sister once told me that if a man truly loves a woman, he cannot bear to see her suffer, even a little. Now, I finally see through it all. Xiao Ruo'an toward me now. How could there be even a shred of care left? A man whose body and heart cannot remain faithful. I no longer want him either. Once my elder sister departs, this vast imperial palace will no longer be able to hold me. 3 days later, Xiao Ruo'an came to Guanju Palace once again. I did not bar him outside the hall this time. Instead, I took the initiative to welcome him in. Xiao Ruo'an was somewhat startled by my change in attitude.
A ting.
Pausing for a moment, he still said, "Yuanna is a good girl. We have decided." I smiled faintly and said straightforwardly, "I agree to your majesty taking Lu Yuan'er into the imperial harem. How about conferring upon her the title of noble consort?" Xiao Ruo'an was visibly stunned.
Empress, you actually agree?
I lowered my eyes submissively. It was I who was inconsiderate before. Your majesty expanding the imperial harem and continuing the royal bloodline is a blessing for the nation. Seeing no sign of grievance on my face, Xiao Ruo'an pulled me into his arms, deeply moved. "It is wonderful that you see it this way."
Tinger, don't worry. We will always treat you the same as before. Between us, it seemed as affectionate as in the beginning.
Yet, I knew deep down, everything had changed. The following day, Lu Yuan'er became Xiao Ruo'an's noble consort. When she came to pay her respects and serve tea, she wore a smug smile.
Her Majesty the Empress, I heard your health is delicate. From now on, I will certainly share your burdens and take good care of His Majesty.
I took the tea and gave a faint smile. It is good that you understand your place. From that day on, Xiao Ruo'an stayed in Lu Yuan'er's palace nearly every day. Everyone knew this noble consort was deeply favored by His Majesty. That day, a maid serving my elder sister in the prince's manor rushed into the palace. She spoke anxiously, her eyes rimmed in red.
Your ladyship, something terrible has happened.
I followed her out of the palace, only to find the capital's streets buzzing with whispers. When I ascended the city wall, I saw my elder sister standing atop the rampart, dressed in a red bridal gown, the very one she wore when marrying Xiao Su. She wore peach blossom makeup, looking at me through tear-blurred eyes.
Tinger, I am finally about to be free.
Tears streamed down my face. My lips trembled, unable to utter a single word. At this very moment, Prince Xian was still with that mistress, leisurely visiting an estate in the capital's outskirts. A strange light flickered in my sister's eyes, her smile sorrowful and ethereal.
Tinger, back in that place, I had a happy family and a successful academic and professional life. Yet ever since I met Xiao Su 10 years ago, I willingly stayed here for all these years. He thought this marriage in the manor could trap me, never knowing that I could have left long ago.
My sister's words made me choke with tears. We had both staked everything on men, only to have our devotion misplaced.
Tinger, step outside.
Having said this, she spread her arms and leaped down from the city wall. Sister, my pupils shrank violently, and the blood throughout my body seemed to freeze in that instant. My legs went uncontrollably weak, yet I mustered all my strength to stumble forward to the edge of the wall. My fingertips barely grazed the cold, abrasive city bricks, leaving before my eyes only that glaring splash of red and bursting blood. Warm drops of blood splashed onto my cheeks and eyelids, carrying a piercing chill that blurred my vision. The crowd gathered below surged forward like a tide. Some covered their mouths in horror and stepped back. Some shook their heads and sighed, and others even whispered among themselves, saying Princess Xian had been too spoiled, seeking death instead of cherishing her title, saying she was too jealous to tolerate others, and had reaped what she sowed. Those words drifted into my ears with the wind, like poison-tipped needles, stabbing relentlessly into the softest part of my heart. I gripped the crevices of the stone wall tightly, my knuckles turning pale and bruised. My vision went dark, and as the world spun around me, I lost all consciousness and collapsed backward. In a daze, I seemed to hear the panicked cries of the palace servants. Someone rushed to catch my swaying body. Someone frantically called for an imperial physician and prepared a sedan chair, while others whispered that the Empress was in shock. Yet I could hold on to nothing, hear nothing, clearly. All that remained was the final look my elder sister gave me. It was release. It was relief. It was hope hidden behind her glistening tears, pleading with all her remaining strength.
Tinger, you must get out of here.
When I opened my eyes again, the familiar bright yellow gauze canopy of Gwangju Palace greeted my sight. A faint scent of calming incense lingered in the air, mixed with a subtle trace of herbal medicine. I lay on the soft yet icy imperial couch, my entire body weak and drained of energy, lacking even the strength to lift a hand. Tears slid silently from the corners of my eyes, soaking a large patch of the pillow slip, piercingly cold. Seeing my eyes open, the maid waiting by the bed hurried forward to attend to me, her voice cautious and soft, even holding her breath.
Your ladyship, you are finally awake. His Majesty stayed by your side for half the night and only left near dawn when the noble consort sent someone saying she was unwell.
I did not speak, only slowly closed my eyes. My heart was completely clear, without a single ripple, leaving only a dead, desolate chill. Sister went home, back to the world she spoke of, free of ancient moral codes, free of polygamy, free of bitter compromises. A world where everyone is equal and free. I should be happy for her, relieved that she finally broke free from these predatory rituals and this gilded cage. Yet the hollow ache in my chest, like a piece was brutally gouged out, refuses to be suppressed. She was my only light in this deep palace, my only support, the only person who understood me, trusted me, and protected me. Now, she has left first, forcing my sore, weak body to sit up. I dismissed all the palace attendants and walked over to the vanity in the inner chamber myself. With trembling fingers, I opened a locked wooden box at the very bottom. Inside, there was no gold, silver, or jewels, nor pearl hairpins or jewelry. Only a tiny, milky white pill, emitting a faint fragrance of herbs. That scent was unique to my elder sister. Before my elder sister left, secretly slipping it to me under the cover of night, she said she exchanged her system points for this feigned-death pill. Upon taking it, one would fall into a complete state of suspended death, with no breathing or heartbeat, body temperature dropping sharply, no different from true death. It could last for a whole month, enough for someone to leave this palace without a trace, to leave this place of heartbreak. Even the path for my departure, she had already paved for me. I too shall be just like my elder sister, with Xiao Ruo'an, destined never to meet again in this life. Thinking back on life in the harem these past few days, I only felt it was ironic to the extreme. After Liu Yan entered the palace, Xiao Ruo'an completely tore off his mask of devotion, casting aside 3 years of mutual respect and the vow of one lifetime, one couple to the wind. He used to swear that he loved only me, saying he would come see me every day. Yet ever since taking her as consort, the times he came to visit me could be counted on one hand. Every time he reached the gates of Gwangju Palace, he was lured away by Liu Yan with excuses like headaches, palpitations, longing, or nightmares. Never even stepping past the hall doors, never even leaving behind a word of greeting. Gwangju Palace was as magnificent as ever, with carved beams and painted pillars, and gold brick floors. Yet, it was as cold as an ice house, devoid of any human presence, devoid of any warmth. The tender affection of the past had long been worn away by betrayal and indifference. I picked up the feigned-death pill, and without a shred of hesitation, tilted my head back and swallowed it. The bitter taste of the medicine spread over my tongue, sliding down my throat into my stomach, carrying a faint hint of sweetness, like my elder sister's final gentleness. Then, I lay back onto the couch, clutching tightly in my palm the concentric jade pendant engraved with "To win the heart of the one I love. Never part till hair turns white." Concentric jade pendant tightly in my palm. My warm fingertips stroked the cold jade over and over, as past scenes surfaced in my mind one after another, like a long, sorrowful dream, gradually sinking into deep sleep. I had a very, very long dream. In the dream, I returned to the lantern festival of our youth. The long street was ablaze with dazzling lights, crowded with people, all kinds of lanterns hanging full upon the branches, rabbit lanterns, lotus lanterns, revolving lanterns, and mythical Xian lanterns, illuminating the entire night sky. With a cozy warmth, my elder sister wore a light pink silk dress, holding my hand, while carrying an exquisite rabbit lantern. The candle flame inside the lantern flickered gently, casting a warm yellow light across our faces. Incredibly gentle and soft. 2 young men walked toward us. They were Xiao Ruo'an, who was still the crown prince back then, and Xiao Su, who was still a commandery prince. The moment our eyes met, all 4 of us flushed at the same time. A boy's shyness and a girl's fluttering heartbeat blossomed quietly amid the dimming lights. Clean, and pure. Xiao Su smiled and ruffled my elder sister's hair, while Xiao Ruo'an quietly slipped me a sugar painting. It was a little rabbit, just like the lantern in my hand. Later, we went to the riverside together to release river lanterns. The river surface shimmered with light as countless lanterns drifted along the current, like stars that had fallen to earth, carrying the most sincere wishes of you. Xiao Ruo'an stood beside me, holding a lotus lantern in both hands, looking at me with a smile, his gaze clear and passionate.
Tinger, what did you wish for?
I turned my head away playfully, shook my head with a smile, and said, "It won't come true if I say it out loud." Yet Xiao Ruo'an reached out, gently brushing the tip of my nose with his fingertip. Intimate and natural, his eyes were as sincere as the brightest stars in the night sky.
How could it not come true? Tinger, my only wish in this life is to marry you. Would you be my wife?
He said that for this very wish, he had knelt before the Buddha every lantern festival, devoutly praying to the gods and Buddhas, doing so for several years. Too bad, once spoken aloud, wishes truly do not come true. The lamps in Guanju Palace burned all night, the candle tears dripping drop by drop, like silent weeping. The feigned-death medicine gradually took effect. My breathing grew weaker and weaker, my heartbeat slower and slower, and my body temperature dropped bit by bit, until at last, all signs of life completely vanished. I lay as still as a sleeping jade statue, without the slightest movement. Early the next morning, just as dawn was breaking, the maid on duty entered the inner hall carrying a wash basin. Seeing me lying motionless on the bed, my face as pale as paper, and my eyes gently closed, her heart skipped a beat. She tentatively reached out to check my breath, and was instantly scared out of her wits. The wash basin clattered loudly to the floor, spilling water everywhere and soaking the golden floor tiles. Panicking, the maid rushed out of Guanju Palace, scrambling frantically toward Qihua Palace, where Lu Yuan'er resided. She cried and screamed as she ran, her voice hoarse and shrill.
Your Majesty, Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. Something has happened to the Empress.
At that moment, inside Qihua Palace, Xiao Ruo'an was having breakfast with Lu Yuan'er. The table was filled with exquisite pastries, porridges, and fresh fruits, all of which used to be my favorites, yet now had become another woman's favor. Lu Yuan'er snuggled beside him, speaking softly, smiling sweetly, a scene of pure affection and harmony, a picture of serene and peaceful times. Hearing the maid's cries, Xiao Ruo'an immediately furrowed his brows, impatience and annoyance showing on his face, and scolded harshly.
Where are your manners, panicking like this? Why are you shouting here, disturbing the noble consort?
Seeing this, Lu Yuan'er hurriedly reached out to gently stroke his back with care, soothing him in a tender voice, though a subtle glint of smugness flashed in her eyes.
Calm your anger, Your Majesty. Perhaps something minor happened in the palace. Let her speak slowly. Don't frighten her.
The palace maid knelt on the floor, trembling like a sieve, my face as pale as paper, her lips quivering, unable to form a complete sentence for the longest time. Her forehead slammed heavily onto the ground, oozing fresh blood.
Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Empress, Her Majesty she. At dawn, a maid noticed something was wrong and rushed to summon the imperial physician. But when the physician arrived, it was already too late.
Xiao Ruo'an frowned even deeper, assuming I was throwing another tantrum, deliberately feigning illness for attention. His tone grew increasingly impatient, dripping with heavy disgust.
What is she making a fuss about now? Just because the Princess of Xian passed away, she makes suicidal scenes all day long. We think she has simply been spoiled rotten. Have the physician treat her properly. There is no need to report back to us.
The maid's eyes reddened, tears streaming down. She kowtowed heavily once more, her voice hoarse and desperate, shattering the warmth inside the hall.
Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Empress has passed away. Her Majesty is truly gone.
Passed away. Those two words struck like a thunderbolt, crashing violently over Xiao Ruo'an's head, shattering his very soul. The jade teacup slipped from his fingers in an instant, shattering against the golden floor tiles. Into countless pieces, the tea splashed onto his bright yellow dragon robe, leaving an unsightly stain. Xiao Ruo'an stood up in disbelief. His body trembled violently, his footing stumbled, and he nearly collapsed to the floor. His face turned deathly pale in an instant, devoid of any color, her lips quivering, without making a sound for the longest time. Lu Yuan'er panicked and tried to step forward to support him, only to be shoved aside violently by Xiao Ruo'an.
Get away.
His eyes were bloodshot, filled with red veins, glaring intently at the palace maid on the floor. Furious, he pointed his finger at her and kicked her hard in the chest. The maid was sent flying backward by the kick, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, which stained the floor red.
What nonsense are you spouting? Xiao Ruo'an's voice was hoarse and trembling, laced with hysterical madness. How could anything happen to Xie Ting? She was fine yesterday. She was merely overcome with grief. How could she have passed away? It must be a lie. You are all lying to us. Everyone is deceiving us.
He did not believe it. How could he possibly believe it? That his empress, that gentle and quiet woman, the Xie Ting whose heart and eyes held only him, the girl he promised to spend his entire life with alone, the woman who stood by him from crown prince to emperor, how could she suddenly be gone? Xiao Ruo'an stumbled out of Qihua Palace, his dragon robe disheveled, his hair crown askew, utterly stripped of his imperial dignity. He ran frantically all the way to Guanju Palace. Along the way, terrified eunuchs and palace maids dropped to their knees one after another, not daring to look up. None had ever seen the emperor in such a disheveled and frenzied state. As soon as he stepped through the palace gates, he saw the entire hall filled with palace attendants. The eunuchs and palace maids were all kneeling on the floor, heads lowered, trembling in fear, their weeping hushed and stifled. The imperial hospital director and all royal physicians had gathered inside, each wearing a solemn expression, troubled and grim. Seeing Xiao Ruo'an enter, they dropped to their knees to pay their respects, yet none dared utter a word. The atmosphere was deathly still and terrifying. I lay quietly upon the bed crafted from golden phoebe wood, eyes gently closed, my face as pale as paper, without a trace of color, long hair scattered across the pillow, like a withered white magnolia, so still that not a breath of life remained, as if merely asleep.
Tinger.
Xiao Ruo'an's feet felt as heavy as lead, making every single step an agonizing struggle. His soles stepped across the golden tiles, making heavy, dragging sounds. Step by step, he shuffled to the bedside, reaching out a violently trembling hand to gently touch my cheek. What his fingertips met was a bone-chilling cold, devoid of any warmth, so icy, it numbed his fingers. Trembling again, he extended his hand to check for my breath. Beneath his fingertips, there was not a single trace of breath, so terribly quiet, without even the faintest rise or fall.
Empress. Tinger.
Xiao Ruo'an's voice choked up, filled with endless panic and pleading.
Stop playing around. We know you are angry. We have come to be with you. Please, wake up. Open your eyes and look at us. Look at us.
Yet, answering him, was the silence filling the room, a deathly stillness, bereft of all breath. I could never give him any response again, never smile at him again, never listen to his sweet vows again, and never again accompany him to see all the vast lands. The imperial physician director knelt on the ground, tremblingly speaking, his voice filled with fear and quivering.
In response to your majesty, Her Majesty the Empress must have suffered from excessive grief and worry. Her heart vessels were damaged long ago, and her body had already collapsed. Yesterday, she suffered the shock of the virtuous prince's consort's passing. That triggered a sudden heart failure, leaving her beyond help. She has already passed away.
Xiao Ruo'an's pupils contracted sharply, as if struck by lightning. He stumbled back several steps in shock. His back slammed against the table, making him grimace in pain, yet he was completely oblivious to it.
How is that possible?
He murmured to himself, his eyes hollow.
Yesterday, when we heard that the Princess of Virtuous had leapt from the wall, we even came to Guanju Palace in person to watch over you for a long time. Seeing you sleeping so peacefully, we thought you were fine before leaving. It was all because of Lu Yunair. She said she wasn't feeling well, so we rushed over to attend to her. It is all our fault. It is all on us.
He muttered to himself over and over again, remorse drowning him like a tidal wave, leaving him breathless. Just then, Lu Yunair also hurried over, her complexion rosy and her steps light, with delicate makeup, without the slightest trace of being unwell. Upon her fair neck, though thick powder had been deliberately applied, one could still see faint, mottled red marks, blindingly glaring, like a succession of slaps struck across Xiao Ruo'an's face. Seeing me lying lifeless on the bed, she first froze in shock, and then a fleeting trace of smugness and excitement flashed deep within her eyes. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly, only to quickly suppress it, replacing it with a look of utter grief, eyes rimmed with red, brimming with tears. Xiao Ruo'an collapsed by my bedside, clutching tightly at my cold, stiff hand, resting his forehead against the back of it, his shoulders trembling slightly. In a daze, I actually felt warm tears dropping onto the back of my hand, burning hot, scalding my skin. Is he actually crying for me? He already stopped loving me. He already broke his vows. He already held another woman tenderly in his arms. He already called me jealous and unreasonable. So why, after my death, put on such a heartbroken and filled with utter regret?
Tinger, we were wrong. It is all our fault.
Xiao Ruo'an's voice was hoarse and broken, laden with endless remorse.
We never intended to deceive you. We were merely foolish for a moment. Please forgive us, will you? Please come back, won't you?
Seeing him in such a state, Liu Yuan'er panicked. She rushed forward to help him up, comforting him softly in an attempt to gain his sympathy.
Your Majesty, her ladyship is already gone. You must restrain your grief and accept this, and take care of your royal health. All the people under heaven are still depending on you.
Accept my grief.
Xiao Ruo'an snapped his head up, his eyes bloodshot, like an uncontrollable beast. He violently shoved Liu Yuan'er's hand away and roared furiously, his voice echoing through the hall.
Accept my grief. Tinger is not dead. She is just asleep. She was perfectly fine yesterday. She was still speaking with us. How could she be gone? It is all your fault. You were the one who killed her.
He leaned down, straining with both arms, trying to pull me into his embrace. Yet my body had long grown stiff and cold from the feigned death. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull me into his embrace, only able to hold my stiff body in vain, looking helpless and utterly despaired. At that moment, Xiao Ruo'an completely lost his mind. All his imperial dignity vanished without a trace. The stark reality made it unmistakably clear to him that his empress had truly left him, never to return. Xiao Ruo'an knelt grief-stricken before my couch, letting out a heart-wrenching roar, his voice hoarse, echoing through the entire Guanju palace, reverberating to every corner of the imperial harem. Liu Yuan'er stood frozen in place, and a moment later, tears streaming down her face, she rushed to comfort him. Unexpectedly, the moment her hand reached out and touched Xiao Ruo'an's sleeve, she was violently struck to the ground by Xiao Ruo'an's palm.
It is all your fault.
Xiao Ruo'an's eyes were bloodshot as he pointed at Liu Yuan'er, his gaze filled with hatred and disgust.
Had you not wept and begged to enter the palace, had you not pestered us relentlessly, how would Tinger have thrown such a fit? How would she have been heartbroken to death? How could she have left us forever? Never let us see you again. Never appear before us ever again.
He had struck her with all his strength. Liu Yuan'er's fair cheek instantly swelled red, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, her hair disheveled, in utter disarray. Lying prone on the ground, she looked at Xiao Ruo'an in shock, her eyes filled with disbelief and grievance. Tears poured from her eyes.
Your Majesty,
Liu Yuan'er wept and shrieked, her voice piercing and sorrowful.
what wrong has this concubine done? All these years I have kept myself pure for you, turning down countless matchmakers, waiting for you with all my heart. You promised me with your own mouth that you would bring me into the palace, that you would grant me an official title. Were all those vows nothing but lies? My devoted love for your Majesty has never been false in the slightest.
Lying on the bed, though I could not move, my mind was completely clear. Hearing these words, I could not help but feel a pang of pity. So Liu Yuan'er was also a pitiful soul blinded by Xiao Ruo'an's sweet talk. As the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter, Liu Yuan'er, well-read in classic poetry since childhood, proficient in the 4 arts, was a renowned talent in the capital, with countless admirers. The Prime Minister wished to find her an equal match with a man who would cherish her sincerely. Yet, after seeing Xiao Ruo'an at a palace banquet, Liu Yuan'er fell in love at first sight, secretly giving her heart to him and refusing to marry anyone else. She originally thought she could marry into the crown prince's manor, become his wife, and be together as a couple for a lifetime. Yet Xiao Ruo'an told her,
Xie Ting and I have known each other since childhood. Our love runs too deep to last with another. Between us, there will never be room for a third person.
Back then, he spoke with such sincerity and such conviction that she truly believed him. She waited silently for 3 years, turning down every good marriage proposal, becoming an old maid in the capital. Yet, as she professed her feelings time and again, and as Xiao Ruo'an ascended the throne as emperor, holding the supreme power of the realm in his hands, seeing that I was the only one in the imperial harem, he gradually began to feel that the promise of one couple for a lifetime was a shackle, a burden, and something that could be easily discarded. He began to enjoy her adoration, to relish the feeling of being looked up to, falling deeper step by step, and betraying me step by step. To this empire, Xiao Ruo'an might be a diligent, wise ruler who loves his people, but in matters of the heart, he is an utter coward and scoundrel. He failed me. and he failed Liu Yuan'er as well, hurting 2 women who truly loved him. Xiao Ruo'an ignored Liu Yuan'er's heart-wrenching cries, in his eyes and in his heart. At this moment, there was only me. Slowly, he pried open my stiff fingers, only to see the concentric jade pendant clutched tightly in my palm. The inscription on it had been worn smooth by my touch, yet remained crystal clear, stinging his eyes. And beside me lay a sealed letter. On the envelope was my delicate handwriting, bearing 4 words, to be opened by His Majesty. Xiao Ruo'an waved his hand, his voice hoarse, yet carrying an irresistible authority.
Everyone, leave us.
Daring not disobey, the palace servants and imperial physicians all bowed and withdrew. The palace doors shut gently, leaving Guanju Palace to just the 2 of us, cloaked in dead silence. With trembling hands, he picked up the letter, his fingertips pressing slightly as he opened the envelope and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was delicate and graceful. Every single stroke was written by my own hand. There was not a word of resentment, nor a single word of blame, yet every word pierced straight through his heart, piercing through all his pretenses and guilt. From this day forth, yearn no more. My longing for you ends here. Xiao Ruo'an, knowing you in this lifetime, I have never regretted it. Meeting you and marrying you, I was truly happy once. I also thought I had found the finest marriage in the world, and believed myself to be the happiest woman alive. Yet you broke your oath, unwilling to let me leave. Nor am I willing to be trapped within these crimson walls, living a lifetime in pain, merely clinging to life. You can give me the title of Empress. You can give me boundless wealth and glory, and you can give me the prestige that the whole world envies. Yet you cannot give me the devoted, lifelong love I longed for, nor can you give me an undivided heart. This imperial palace is a gilded cage. It has trapped me for 3 years. It is time to let me go. After I die, I do not wish to be buried in the imperial mausoleum. That place is cold and crowded, full of schemes and betrayal. I do not like it. Find an auspicious place on Mount Kangshan, a place of peace and quiet, amidst picturesque mountains and clear waters, and bury me there. Consider it fulfilling my final wish. May you be well and in good health. May we never meet again in the next life. Xiao Ruo'an read every single word, tears falling silently, dripping onto the letter, smudging the ink, and blurring the words. He frantically wiped them with his sleeve, yet his tears flowed only faster, impossible to wipe away, falling like broken beads. After a long silence, a low roar of utter agony echoed within Guanju Palace, like a solitary mortally wounded wolf, despairing and mournful.
Would you rather die than stay by my side? Xie Ting, do you hate me that much? Do you despise seeing me that much?
He clutched the letter tightly, his knuckles turning white, almost crushing the paper to pieces. His gaze fell upon that concentric jade pendant, and he suddenly remembered this was given when he confessed his feelings in our youth, bestowed upon me by his own hand. He said,
2 wearing the concentric jade pendants shall never part in this life.
Yet, his own pendant had long been lost in a nest of soft pleasures, lost in his infatuation with Liu Yuan'er, never to be retrieved again. Regret, agony, despair, guilt, like countless knives, pierced ruthlessly into Xiao Ruo'an's heart, cutting him to pieces, blade by blade, causing him agonizing pain. Unable to bear it any longer, he violently spat out a mouthful of blood, splattering across the letter and the jade pendant, a glaring, vivid red, and then collapsed heavily beside my bed, unconscious. All his life, high-spirited, noble, and upright, as an emperor, holding the power of life and death over the realm, he had never once lost his composure. Yet, at this moment, his most wretched, most shameful, most desperate, and most humble state was all laid bare before me. Xiao Ruo'an fell bedridden with illness, suffering from severe heart palpitations. He was unable to sleep night after night, and the slightest agitation brought unbearable chest pain. Yet, forcing himself through the illness, he personally presided over my funeral, allowing no one to interfere and no one to show negligence. Determined to give me the most dignified departure, following my final wishes, he did not bury me in the imperial mausoleum, but led men himself to Mount Kang on the capital's outskirts. Traversing the lush mountains, he personally chose a scenic spot with clear waters and green hills, peaceful and serene, overlooking a sea of clouds, to build a tomb for me. He oversaw the craftsmen in person, selected the coffin himself, and personally arranged the burial goods. Every single piece was something I had cherished in life. On the day the coffin was sealed, a fine drizzle fell from the sky, pattering softly, like silent weeping, soaking everyone's clothes. Xiao Ruo'an wore plain mourning robes, looking pale and weak, his figure gaunt, standing before the coffin. His eyes were red from crying, his eyes bloodshot, yet he tried his best to keep his composure, maintaining the final dignity of an emperor. He sealed the coffin coffin with his own hands, personally, guided the casket to its burial, and watched as it was lowered inch by inch into the tomb, slowly covered by the yellow earth, until at last, it became a small burial mound, marked only by a wordless stela. Atop Mount Kang, a gentle breeze drifted through a surging sea of clouds, gazing across at the distant imperial mausoleum, yet forever separated by endless mountains and rivers, destined never to meet again in this life. A month later, inside the silent tomb, I slowly opened my eyes. The effects of the death-feigning drug had just worn off, and all my senses had returned. Only, my body was still a little weak, and my limbs felt somewhat numb. I slowly sat up, felt for the tiny sharp tool hidden in my hairpin, and began prying loose the wooden coffin nails bit by bit. My movements were gentle, not daring to make the slightest sound. The coffin was successfully pried open, and fresh air rushed in, carrying the fresh fragrance of mountain trees and the scent of earth. That was the taste of freedom. I groped my way out of the coffin, and in the corner of the tomb, I found the secret opening previously agreed upon with the pallbearers. I bent down and crawled out. Outside the opening, the trees and greenery were lush. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, warm and bright, shining upon my body. It felt wonderfully warm. I took a deep breath. The air lacked the imperial palace's oppression, the icy chill of the Guanju palace, the deceit and scheming, and the betrayal and hurt. There was only the taste of freedom. I disguised myself, changed into coarse linen clothes, tied up my long hair, smeared a bit of dirt on my face, and disguised myself as an ordinary commoner woman, concealing all my elegance. I secretly returned to the capital, hid among the crowd, and took a distant look at the Prince Xian manor. At that time, Xiao Su and his mistress Zhang Tanner had just returned from an outing at the suburban estate. He looked utterly relaxed, still thinking to himself that he had merely taken a concubine and fathered a son. After all these days, no matter how stubborn my elder sister was, she should have accepted reality by now. For the dignified Prince Xian, taking a concubine was nothing more than an ordinary, trivial matter. Among all the officials in the imperial court, which noble lord didn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines, surrounded by women? Yet his princess consort alone was so overly dramatic, so utterly ungrateful. Yet he had long forgotten that before the entire capital's people, before heaven and earth, and before my elder sister, he had vowed to marry only her in this life, to love only her in this life, and never to betray his oath to her. He forgot his past devotion, forgot his past promises, and forgot the woman who had stayed in an unfamiliar world for his sake, until Xiao Su strutted arrogantly into the Prince Xian estate, only to see right in the center of the main hall my elder sister's coffin placed there. The red wedding dress was still on her body, stained with patches of blood. Her makeup remained intact, yet devoid of the slightest trace of life. He instantly froze where he stood, his face turning deathly pale, his pupils shrinking violently, unable to move his feet even an inch, as if nailed to the spot. After a long silence, Xiao Su finally snapped back to his senses and let out a mournful roar, exhausting all his strength. Heartbroken and anguished,
Yaoer.
he stumbled and rushed toward the coffin, shoved aside the servants trying to stop him, threw open the coffin lid, and hugged my elder sister's gradually chilling, lifeless body, breaking down into bitter sobs. His wails were desperate and agonizing, echoing throughout the entire estate.
Yaoer. Wake up. Don't scare me. Look at me.
He refused to believe that the woman of dazzling brilliance, who dared to love and hate, so radiant and vibrant, who had stayed by his side for 5 years, who had given up her chance to go home for him, was truly gone just like that. In the most resolute way, she had left him, never to return. Yet countless commoners on the city wall saw it with their own eyes, and the coroner examined her in person. Countless pieces of evidence told him that Xie Yao was truly dead, never to return. He looked at my elder sister in the coffin, dressed in her bridal gown, stained with large patches of dried blood. Her makeup remained exquisite, her features still lovely, yet devoid of the slightest trace of life. She would never smile at him again, nor hold on to the vow of staying devoted to each other for a lifetime. He wailed in utter despair, repenting again and again.
Yaoer. We have known and accompanied each other for years. It was just a concubine. It was just a child. Why must you be so resolute? Why did you leave me? Why?
He could not comprehend it. It was merely a promise. In this world, a man's promise was never worth much to begin with. Having multiple wives and concubines was considered natural for a man. Why did my elder sister care so deeply? Why could she not compromise? Why did she leave so heartlessly and so completely? He would never understand. My elder sister came from another world. What she sought was never glory and wealth, nor the title of princess consort, nor yielding for the sake of compromise, nor superficial harmony. What she wanted was a whole, undivided heart. It was devotion to one love for a lifetime, and dignity that would not be betrayed, humiliated, or trampled upon. A long time ago, my elder sister once said that she did not belong here. She had always searched for a way to leave. If she hadn't met Xiao Su and lost her heart, and if she hadn't worried so much about me, her younger sister, she would have returned to her own world long ago. The Marquis household had many children, and daughters were mostly pawns in political marriages, manipulated by others, with no say over their own lives. When my sister arrived here at the age of 10, I was the first to notice the change in her. She taught me arithmetic, taught me to be independent, taught me not to rely on men, taught me to live for myself, and taught me the meaning of equality and freedom. For the sake of Xiao Su, she willingly stayed in this world she disliked, willingly endured the shackles of this world's etiquette, and willingly gave up the wonderful life she once had. Yet, in the end, all she received was betrayal and humiliation, and complete, devastating heartbreak. Standing in the crowd outside the prince's manor, watching this scene unfold, my eyes welled with tears streaming silently down his face, dripping onto my collar, chilly and cold. In my sister's hair bun, she still wore that gold-threaded phoenix hairpin. The phoenix was lifelike, holding a lustrous jade pearl in its beak, gleaming brilliantly in the sunlight. This was a relic left by Xiao Su's late mother, the most precious treasure in the prince's manor. He said it must be given to the only woman he wished to spend his life with, as a token of his love and as a lifetime promise. Xiao Su used to say that Yao was exceptionally brilliant.
No woman in this world could ever compare to her. She is the only one worthy of this phoenix hairpin.
Now, my elder sister wore her favorite red wedding dress and that most precious phoenix hairpin in the most dignified, most resolute, and proudest way. She left this place that broke her heart and returned to her true home. Chaos erupted throughout the prince's manor. The servants wailing, Xiao Su's bitter weeping, and the sound of shattering porcelain mingled together. In utter turmoil, I turned around and walked away without looking back, leaving without a single regret. From that moment on, all the disputes, grudges, and tangled passions of the capital had nothing to do with me anymore. After my elder sister died, the Prince Xian manor lost its mistress, lost its past harmony and peace, and collapsed into complete ruin. Xiao Su drowned his sorrows in wine all day, ignoring all worldly affairs. He locked himself in his study, staring at my sister's belongings, reliving the past over and over, consumed by overwhelming remorse. Yet Zhang Tanner and her son Xiao Ziming were utterly restless and troublesome. Seeing Xiao Su in such desolation, she whined and caused scenes before him every day, scheming desperately to elevate her status. She wanted to become the side consort, wanted Xiao Ziming to be made heir apparent, and wanted to take my sister's place entirely. Time and again, they pushed Xiao Su toward his breaking point, constantly bringing up my sister's alleged faults, pressuring Xiao Su repeatedly to give them formal titles, trampling upon the last remnants of his guilt and longing. Finally, on a stormy, torrential night, Zhang Tanner threw another tantrum in front of Xiao Su, cursing that my sister was an ungrateful madwoman who deserved to die, holding on to the position of princess consort and standing in her way. Xiao Su could bear it no longer. He drew his sword from the wall with a sudden snap, pointing the tip directly at Zhang Tanner and Xiao Ziming. His gaze was bone-chillingly cold, devoid of any warmth, emanating a towering, overwhelming fury.
Don't you dare bring this up again. Even if the princess consort is gone now, you will never become the princess consort, and Ziming will never become the heir. How dare you even utter her name? You are not worthy.
Only at this very moment did Xiao Su finally realize that the elder legitimate sister he had neglected, betrayed, and hurt had long since become irreplaceable. In his heart, she was his lifelong obsession, a lifelong ache. Only after losing her did he learn to cherish her. Yet, it was all too late. There was no going back. Later, Xiao Su petitioned to leave the capital and went to Zhongnan to manage the floods. Day and night, he numbed himself with heavy official duties, not allowing himself a single spare moment to think of his elder sister, to think of that regretful past, or to think of his own betrayal. The floods in Zhongnan were severe. He personally guarded the river embankments, eating and living alongside the common people, weather-beaten by the wind and sun, and battered by rain and snow. In just a few months, his black hair was weathered by hardship, turning gray and white, his figure gaunt, and his face became haggard, no longer possessing the high-spirited vigor of the virtuous prince of the past. Until one day, as he stood upon the river embankment, gazing at the surging river waters, churning with violent waves, in a daze he saw on the river's surface my elder legitimate sister, clad in a red bridal gown, smiling brightly, as captivating as when they first met, waving to him and softly calling out to him,
"Ah, Su."
Xiao Su's heart surged with emotion, and he threw himself recklessly into the icy river, trying to grasp that figure who haunted his dreams, yet grasped only the icy river water, nothing but an illusion. Fortunately, he was rescued in time by nearby commoners, barely surviving. The next day, with graying hair, Xiao Su knelt miserably by the riverbank, soaked to the bone, facing the endlessly flowing river, weeping bitterly and hoarsely. His voice was hoarse and broken, repenting again and again, calling out again and again.
Yao, come back. I was wrong. Please don't leave me. Please come back, won't you, Yao?
Yet, answering him was only the sound of rushing waters, the endless wind, and the rustling of leaves. There was no longer that Xie Yao who would smile at him, who would tease him, and who would stay devoted to one love for a lifetime. Meanwhile, I had traveled through many twists and turns, evading all watchful eyes, and arrived at the ferry crossing outside the capital. People bustled to and fro at the ferry, boats shuttling back and forth, the cries of merchants intertwined with the boatmen's calls, making it bustling and lively, filled with the vibrant essence of everyday life. I stood on the shore, watching the river waters flow, my heart completely at peace, without a ripple, no heartache, only hope for the future. From here, one could reach Jinling. It was a place far from the capital, bustling yet peaceful, gentle and romantic. It was the haven I had long yearned for, the place where I would start anew.
Miss, how many days' journey to Jinling from here?
I stepped forward and asked a grain merchant at the ferry, my voice soft, hiding all my past. Seeing that I was all alone, dressed plainly, yet gentle in appearance, the merchant hesitated briefly before speaking, his tone sincere.
Going to Jinling by water takes about half a month. Since you are alone, it might not be safe on the way. I'd suggest taking a passenger boat meant for noble ladies. It is steadier and much safer.
Yet, I had to stay hidden and could not reveal my identity. If I boarded an official passenger boat, I could easily be recognized, which would bring fatal disaster upon me. After a moment's thought, I found an old boatman punting a small skiff. His hair was gray, his face kind, clearly an honest man. I took out 20 taels of silver and placed it in his hand. The silver was heavy, enough for him to live comfortably for a long time. Old master, I would like to take your skiff to Jinling. Please look after me along the way. No need to make unnecessary stops, and no need for questions. Seeing the generous amount of silver, and seeing me all alone, with such earnest eyes, he promptly nodded and agreed, wearing an honest smile.
Rest assured, miss, I've punted boats all my life. It is as steady as can be. I guarantee I will get you to Jinling safe and sound.
And so, aboard a small skiff, I left the capital that had imprisoned me for 3 years and broken my heart so deeply. I sailed toward an unknown yet free horizon, toward a new life. The old boatman was very experienced, and the boat sailed smoothly. Yet, having grown up in the capital, as a pampered lady, I had never been on a boat before. Throughout the journey, I was terribly seasick, unable to eat or sleep. I lost a great deal of weight, looking pale and weak. The kind-hearted old boatman often brewed ginger soup for me and prepared light snacks. His meticulous care along the way allowed me, amidst the displacement, to feel a glimmer of warmth. After half a month of roughing it in the wild and enduring the journey's hardships, from a deep slumber, I heard the old boatman's joyful calls, full of cheerful smiles.
Miss, wake up. We've arrived at Jinling City.
I struggled out of the cabin and saw, not far along the shore, a bustling scene of prosperity and celebration. Gray bricks and black roof tiles, small bridges overflowing water, shops lining the streets, and weaving crowds of people. The air was filled with the fragrance of pastries, tea, and sweet osmanthus. So completely unlike the solemnity of the capital, it was warm and vibrant, gentle and romantic. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't help feeling overwhelmed. I have finally left the capital, finally escaped that cage, and finally gained my freedom. In the city of Jinling, using the silver I had brought with me, I rented a quiet and elegant house with a small courtyard, with osmanthus and begonia planted inside. It was a serene setting. I hired an honest cook and a taciturn maid, and settled down peacefully just like that, ignoring worldly affairs and leaving the past behind. As the days went by, I gradually adapted to life in Jinling. The pace was slow, warm, and pleasant, free from the oppression of the imperial court and the malice of people's hearts. Yet I realized I had missed my period for months, often feeling fatigued and weak, nauseous, and with a poor appetite. Startled in my heart, I quickly invited the best physician in town to examine me, feeling anxious and uneasy inside. After checking my pulse, the physician stroked his beard and congratulated me with a smile, his eyes warm and kind.
Miss, congratulations. This is a pregnancy pulse. You are already 3 months pregnant. The pulse is steady, and the baby is very healthy.
The arrival of this child instantly threw me into confusion. I stood frozen in place, unable to come to my senses for a long time. This was Xiao Ruo'an's child, the child of the man I once loved deeply. A tie to the past I desperately wanted to flee, and a reality I least wanted to face. Yet, after regaining my senses, looking at my slightly rounded belly, and feeling that faint breath of life, I knew this was my own flesh and blood, and my only reliance in this world. The unease in my heart gradually faded away, leaving only tenderness and resolve. A maternal glow shone in my eyes. This is my child, my only kin in this world, my sustenance for the rest of my life, and my hope to keep living. I accepted this child's existence and focused on nursing my pregnancy in peace, carefully nurturing the little life inside me, no longer dwelling on the painful past, focusing only on my life in the present. After 6 months of resting and recovering, on a bright and sunny afternoon, fragrant with the scent of sweet osmanthus, I safely gave birth to a baby girl. My daughter was delicately beautiful as carved jade, her eyes and brows looking just like mine, yet carrying a subtle trace of Xiao Ruo'an's features. Her cries were loud and clear, and she was very healthy, with fair skin, like a piece of warm, fine jade. I named her Qinghuan, Xi Qinghuan. The simplest joys are the truest flavors of life. How fortunate I am tonight to partake in simple joy again. I only wish for my daughter a lifetime of peace and joy, free from worries and sorrow. She need not be trapped within the high walls of the palace, nor cling to hollow vows, nor endure betrayal and heartache, nor walk on eggshells around others. May she only savor the simple pleasures of this world and live as a free and happy woman. After giving birth to Qinghuan, I was no longer satisfied with just living a quiet life, nor did I want to sit idly by and deplete our savings. I wanted to give my daughter a better life. I wanted to survive by relying on my own strength with the remaining silver I had. In the most bustling area of Jinling City, I opened a restaurant and a tea house. I applied the novel ideas taught to me by my elder sister to the business. The restaurant offered innovative and unique dishes with a distinct, lingering flavor, while the tea house served sweet, fragrant, and delicious tea, paired with exquisite pastries, along with my warm hospitality, fair pricing, and honest dealings with all. In just 3 years, my restaurant and tea shop became the liveliest, most renowned, and most reputable establishments in Jinling. Business flourished, with an endless stream of patrons, accumulating a sizable fortune for us. Countless merchants traveled through Jinling, coming and going between north and south, occasionally bringing news from the capital. Sitting in my tea shop, listening to those distant tales, my heart remained completely undisturbed, unmoved, and serene. I heard that Prince Xian, Xiao Su, was assassinated a year ago in Jiangnan, suffering grievous injuries. Even in his coma, he repeatedly called out the name of his late princess, Xie Yao, weeping with every breath. His injuries were so severe that he could never stand again, crippled in both legs from then on, completely broken in spirit. He could only live as a confined, idle prince, no longer possessing his former high spirits, living every day in remorse and longing. As for his mistress, Zhang Tanner, she was overheard by Xiao Su when he regained consciousness, cursing the late princess Xie Yao in the manner. In a fit of fury, he cut out her tongue and banished her to the most remote and bitterly cold estate, to be a slave for life, never to leave the estate forever. A truly miserable end. As for that illegitimate son, Xiao Ziming, during the great plague that broke out in the capital last year, he was barely 6 years old, frail by nature, and with no one genuinely caring for him. His high fever refused to subside in in just a few days. Beyond all medical help, he passed away quietly. When the news reached Xiao Su, who was managing flood control in Jiangnan, he was kneeling on the river embankment, calling his elder legitimate sister's name toward the river, over and over again. Hearing the guard's quiet report, he merely froze for a moment. He did not cry, nor did he rage. He only slowly raised his hand, wiped away the wetness of rain and sweat mixed on his face, and said calmly,
Dead, so be it. She was never meant to come into this world.
As soon as I spoke, he continued to gaze at the flowing river, as if nothing had ever happened, yet only his personal guard knew. That night, Prince Xian drank himself into a stupor in his tent, clutching the plain silver hairpin my elder sister had left behind years ago. He wept through the entire night. His sobs were muffled, as if someone were choking his throat, broken and intermittent, filled with nothing but remorse.
Yao, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Please come back, won't you? I don't want anything anymore. I only want you.
Yet the river flowed east, never to return. Later, Xiao Su crippled his legs and was carried back to the capital and placed under house arrest in the Prince Xian Manor. The mansion that once brimmed with guests was now completely deserted, leaving only fallen leaves all over the courtyard, with no one to sweep them away. He spent all day sitting in a wheelchair, staring blankly at the courtyard where my elder sister once lived, sitting there for an entire day at a time. Whenever anyone in the manor mentioned Zhang Tanner or brought up that child who died young, he would suddenly lose control, trashing the entire room, screaming that it was never to be spoken of again. He finally understood that he hadn't just lost a princess consort, but the one who had been willing to stay in another world for him, who believed in him for a lifetime and devoted to him with all her heart. Yet he realized it too late to ever make amends. Meanwhile, my days in Jinling became calmer with each passing day. Qinghuan grew day by day, with curved, smiling eyes and two faint dimples when she laughed, looking just like I did in my youth. She had no love for palace rules or being bound to the gentle arts. Instead, she loved running around the tavern with me, listening to merchants tell tales from far and wide, watching street acrobatics, and tasting every delicacy in Jinling. I raised my daughter the way my elder sister once taught me, not forcing her to be demure, nor teaching her to endure in silence, nor telling her that a woman must depend on a man. I only taught her how to read, do arithmetic, understand reason, and love herself. I taught her to live this life for herself, to live openly and honestly, freely and joyfully. As the restaurant business continued to grow, I went on to open fabric shops and rouge shops, all using the new designs and new formulas my elder sister had mentioned back then. For a time, they took Jinling by storm. Many noble ladies took pride in using rouge from my shop and wearing fabrics from my textile shop as a badge of honor. From the former empress secluded in the palace, I became shopkeeper Xi, respected by all in Jinling. No one knew of my past. They saw me only as a resilient woman striving alone with her daughter. It was during this time that Mr. Shen truly entered my life. He was a renowned scholar merchant in Jiangnan, gentle-tempered and generous to everyone. He never asked about my past, only catching me in time whenever I fainted, patiently coaxing Qinghuan when she cried, and quietly resolving any trouble my business faced. He treated Qinghuan like his own daughter, making kites for her, buy her sugar figurines, taught her to ride horses, and would carry a lantern to meet me on my way home at night. At the dinner table, he would quietly push my favorite dishes toward me. He never once said he loved me, yet all his gentleness and peace to me. Once, Qinghuan hugged his leg, looked up at him, and asked,
Mr. Shen, will you stay with Mother and me forever?
He smiled and patted her head, then looked at me, his gaze as gentle as spring waters in Jinling.
As long as you'll have me, I will stay by your side for a lifetime.
Looking into the sincerity in his eyes, I finally gave a gentle nod. There were no traditional 3 letters or 6 etiquettes, no grand 10-mile bridal procession, and no lavish wedding banquet. Only on an evening filled with the scent of sweet osmanthus, the 3 of us sat in the small courtyard and shared a simple dinner, and that was our wedding. To the world, he only said
that I was his lawfully wedded wife, and that he would never take a concubine in this life, and never wrong my daughter and me in the slightest.
That single promise outweighed all of Xiao Ruo'an's past vows of eternal love. News from the capital still arrived intermittently. I heard that ever since my death, afterward, completely emptied the imperial harem. He never summoned any woman again. Lu Yuan'er was banished by him to the cold palace, and the prime minister's clan gradually lost power, losing their former glory. Some say That Lu Yuan heir in the cold palace has gone mad all day long, repeating over and over.
His Majesty promised to give me a title. He promised me.
Yet, an emperor's promise had long since scattered in the wind. Xiao Ruo'an's health deteriorated day by day, plagued by heart palpitations and nightmares for years, waking up startled every night, crying out,
Tinger.
2 words. The palace servants said that in His Majesty's bedchamber, the bedding I once used, the pillows and mats, and the tea sets were always kept in place, all arranged just as they were when I was there, as if I had never left. He even decreed that Guangju Palace remain untouched forever, forbidding anyone from living there, forbidding anyone from changing a thing, swept and cleaned daily, with lanterns lit every night, as though waiting for someone who would never return. Until 2 years later, the tomb guards at Mount Kang reported that a hole had appeared beside the Empress's tomb, and the coffin was empty. That day, Xiao Ruo'an ignored the imperial physician's objections, dragging his sickly body to rush to Mount Kang in person. When he saw that empty coffin, saw the marks where it had been pried open from the inside, and saw that not a single funerary treasure was missing, far from feeling sorrow, he lost all composure and burst into wild laughter, right then and there, laughing until tears streamed down his face.
She is not dead. My Tinger isn't dead. She really is still alive.
On that day, atop Mount Kang, the emperor wept like a child. From that day on, Xiao Ruo'an began traveling in incognito outside the palace, journeying across the entire country, searching for any trace of me like a madman, leaving state affairs to veteran ministers, leaving the inner palace empty. He cast aside his supreme imperial dignity, cast aside his vast empire, all to find a woman whose heart had long died toward him. For 2 years, he traveled over mountains, rivers, and lakes, his temples touched with gray, his face haggard and gaunt, no longer the high-spirited emperor of the past. He finally, in Jinling, found me. On that day, lanterns filled the city of Jinling. The Lantern Festival had arrived, and holding Qinghuan's hand, I had just stepped out of the tavern. Mr. Shen went to buy a rabbit lantern for Qinghuan. The crowd was bustling, and the lanterns shone brilliantly. Turning around, I caught a gaze both familiar and strange. Xiao Ruo'an stood amid the glow of lanterns, dressed in plain, ordinary robes, his figure gaunt, his temples grayed with age, his eyes bloodshot, staring intently at me as if he could not believe his own eyes. He walked closer, step by step, his voice trembling and terribly hoarse.
Tinger, we have finally found you.
Frightened, Qinghuan hid behind me and asked in a low voice,
Mother, who is this grandpa?
That one word stung Xiao Ruo'an, turning his face pale. His body swayed slightly. He looked at me, his eyes surged with remorse, longing, wild joy, and humility. All these emotions intertwined, causing this supreme monarch to completely lose his composure.
Come back to the palace with us.
He reached out to grab my wrist, his tone desperate and humble.
We have emptied the entire inner palace. Lu Yener is already gone. No one will ever disturb us again. In this life we shall stay by your side, and yours alone. We will never mistreat you again. Tinger, come back with us.
I stepped back gently, dodging his hand, my tone calm and unrippled. Your Majesty has mistaken me for someone else. I am no empress. I am shopkeeper Xi of Jinling. My name is Xie Ting. I am already married, with a husband and a daughter, living a peaceful life. He snapped his head toward what was behind me, just in time to see Mr. Shen walking over with a rabbit lantern. Shen naturally took my hand, handed the lantern to Qinghuan, and shielded us, mother and daughter, behind him. Looking calmly at Xiao Ruo'an, he said,
Young master, as for my wife and young daughter, you need not trouble yourself.
Mr. Shen's gaze was gentle yet firm. With a single sentence, a clear line was drawn. Xiao Ruo'an looked at the 3 of us standing together as a family, looking at the peace and smiles in my eyes that had never been there before, something he had never been able to give me. He finally understood that he had lost far more than just an empress. He had lost the Xie Ting whose heart and eyes were once filled only with him, who was willing to spend her entire life by his side. That Xie Ting had died the moment he broke his vow, had died before the portrait in the secret chamber of the imperial study, had died in the blood of her elder sister beneath the city walls, had died in that bowl of fake death potion in Guangju Palace, never to return to life again. He froze in place, tears streaming silently down his face, looking utterly wretched. Amid the city's sea of festive lanterns, after a long silence, he finally spoke slowly, his voice faint as a sigh.
It was we who failed you. We will force you no longer. We only hope that all your years ahead are filled with peace, and every day with joy. In this lifetime, we shall never disturb you again.
With that, he turned around and slowly faded into the dimming lights, a solitary figure, never once looking back. 5 years later, news came from the capital that Emperor Xiao Ruo'an had passed away. Before his death, he issued 2 final imperial edicts. First, to crown a virtuous heir of the imperial clan as the new emperor. Second, to bury him in Mount Kangshan, beside my empty tomb. No imperial titles were carved upon his tombstone, only a single line, entrusting the rest of my life to the mountains and rivers. May we never cross paths in the next? The world sighed at the emperor's deep devotion, yet only I knew that some lost chances are lost for a lifetime.